Hey guys, hope everyone's having a great Friday. We are going to be talking about classroom management today. Um, and you can see the little cartoon there. It says, "Can you help me, Mrs. Martin?" Uh, this wasn't covered in any of my education courses, and it has a teacher, and you can see in the background the kids are going crazy. I really do think that classroom management is the most important thing that you will learn with us or through example from some of your observations. I think we can equally see what we don't want to do and learn from that, as well as being modeled with strong classroom management. So we're just going to touch on it a bit here. I know that you guys take a classroom management course, but we're just going to touch on it a bit. And so some of you have already taken classroom management, and so you will be able to share with us things that you've learned, and some of us still needs to take it. And so this will be a good introduction to that. So the first thing I want you to do is on your worksheet that you have printed out, I want you to go ahead and pause this, and I want you, in the space provided, to give me 3 adjectives that describe your favorite teacher. So go ahead and pause that and go ahead and do that. Once you have those 3 adjectives of a good teacher, I just want you to kind of reflect on it and think about what experiences you have had with strong teaching and what experiences you've had with very poor teaching, and then how that has affected your view of education. When we look in the classroom, there really are 3 approaches to dealing with children that everyone will choose. Some people will be extremely exhausting to their class and flip between an authoritarian or a permissive teacher or authoritative teacher. But most people really do start with one. So we have an authoritarian teacher. They are strict, they lack concern of opinions of others, it's their way or the highway. That is just the type of teacher they are. Permissive, they give their kids excessive freedom. Their behaviors really are not monitored. They're really not willing to do the tough work of calling them out and making kids do what they need to do. Authoritative. This is more of the children are able to be trusted. They are going to work with children in their behaviors that they have in the classroom, and it's more of a team approach. Of course, the authoritative is definitely the best approach, but everyone naturally leans towards one side or the other. If you're thinking of permissive is on one side of a scale, and then we have authoritative, and then we have authoritarian. Which side are you realistically going to lean towards more? Because what you want to do is line yourself up to that last one. That's our goal, is to be authoritative in the classroom. But most of us are going to lead a little bit more permissive and let them get by with a little bit more, really care about if our students like us, and so we're going to falsely give them that sense by letting them have their own way. And then others of us, me included, are going to lean more towards authoritarian, and I have to work hard to pull myself back up to make sure that my kids know that this is a community. We're all in this together. So what I want you to do is, here in a second, I want you to pause it again, and I want you on your worksheet, on your graphic organizer there, I want you to draw a picture of authoritarian, draw a picture of permissive, and draw a picture of authoritative. Underneath that, I never tell you to say names, but we're not telling them out loud. I want you to give me a name of an authoritarian in your life, a permissive person in your life, and an authoritative person in your life. And then underneath that, I want you to tell me one action that that person has done to prove that they are that type of person. It can be parents, it can be coaches, it can be professors, teachers that you've had in the past, ministers, anyone that you've come into contact with your life. But I want you to really own each one of those words attached to a certain person that you've seen in your life. So go ahead and pause that and illustrate and reflect. So in the classroom, there of course are common practices for success. Okay. Things that we can do to make sure that we have a successful classroom. We can make procedures known on the first day using activities that are pre-planned for the class, okay? Coming in on the first day of school was so important. And I wanted to make sure that my kiddos knew exactly what was going to happen on that first day of school and throughout the rest of the school year. And so I knew that we were going to be practicing lining up. I knew that we were going to be practicing how to put your books away, how to slide in all of your chairs. They were pre-planned activities that I was going to hit that day. Have a short list of classroom rules posted and discussed. Don't just assume they know them. When I was a fifth grade teacher, we had the same rules for years, and I'm sure those fifth graders had seen very similar rules for 6 straight years. But what we want to do is reflect. How do those deal with now that I'm a fifth grader, now that I'm a third grader? What does that mean? Because keeping your hands to yourself to a kindergartner is completely different than keeping your hands to yourself as a 10-year-old fifth grader. Okay? You need to model and practice expectations. Every single time you move, practice. Have them do exactly what you want them to do. If they do not uphold your standard, have them do it again. For you guys that have gone through methods with me, we talk about this. And I know that you guys talk about this in classroom management. But to model and practice expectations all the time. If you let them do or slip from your expectations once, it's just going to be a landslide. Hold students accountable. It is so important to not go down that landslide, to make sure that the students know that in love you have standards for them because you know that they can meet those standards and you want them to be the very best that they can be. Okay? Classroom, in the classroom, a good technique equals great classroom management. Okay? So, first technique, stay with it. Nip trouble before it gets big. Make sure students know you know everything that goes on, okay? Make sure that they kind of almost see you as an all-seeing eye and that you're not going to just ignore something because it's just too much for you to handle that day. Again, because it's going to become an avalanche there. Multitask. Don't have a one-track mind. Don't think, well, I'm teaching science right now. I can't possibly manage their behaviors or give this child an evil eye to tell them that you need to settle down. You've got to multitask. You got to be able to have a small group and micromanage other groups. If I am teaching a small group around a kidney-shaped table and I am focused on them, I've got to be able to be focused on them and focused on the 4 other groups that's going on in my classroom and have the ability to manage them simply by looking at them. That's practice. That's difficult, but that's what's going to set your classroom from average or good to a great classroom. That's what's going to set your classroom apart, that you enjoy coming every day because you're not fighting small little petty fights throughout the classroom if you have good technique and great classroom management. The third tip is smoothness and momentum. Understand the rhythm of student behavior. Keep a good pace. Keep them moving. As soon as you don't know where your worksheets are, or you don't know what's coming next in the day, or it is out of the ordinary, or they don't have a system or a procedure that they follow, that's when children are going to get off track. That's when children are going to see that you're not on top of their game, and so that they have the ability to take advantage of you. The fourth one, keep everyone involved. Know how to incorporate everyone and keep those activities in your toolbox, okay? I used to teach with whiteboards, and every kid would have a personal whiteboard and a marker and a sock at their desk ready to go, because as I'm teaching, I'm not going to ask a question and call on someone. I want everyone to respond every single time to keep everyone engaged. I would say ask a question, write it, so they would write it on their whiteboard. Hide it, they would hide it against their chest so no one could see it, and that was also a cue to me that they were ready to go. And then show it, and then they would flip it up. And I could easily assess everyone in the class if people were paying attention, if they were understanding the topic that we were talking about. Keep them on their toes. Schedule really well. Have the class move quickly. class becoming dull or mundane is going to make sure that it's going to mean that your class isn't, they're not pushed hard enough, and that they are going to have the opportunity to most likely cause some trouble in your class. So, classroom rules for teachers. Create and design a list of rules that all teachers should follow, including what we have previously discussed. Okay, so I want you right now to give me 5 rules that you think that all teachers should follow. So on your worksheet right now, go ahead and list out 5 rules that teachers should always abide by. Go ahead and pause it and do that. Dealing with misbehaviors, it's going to happen no matter how quick of a pace you run your classroom, no matter what, how accountable you hold your children. Someone is always going to misbehave because you're dealing with tiny humans here. So there's different ways that you can do that. You can have planned ignoring. If it's really not something that is distracting the class too much, and the only reason they're doing it is to get a rise out of you, at that time it might be a good idea just to simply ignore it, and you're doing it purposefully. When planned ignoring works is when they stop doing it because they're not getting attention. If they keep doing it and keep doing it and you're not giving them attention and they just keep doing it, planned ignoring does not work. You need to do something else. Signals. My eyes were always a huge signal to kiddos, and you might even agree with that still today. If I am giving you an evil look or an evil eye, I can communicate a lot. You can also communicate things with your body language. You can also communicate things just by simply touching someone's back. All of those are signals for you. Proximity, if a child is talking, it is so simple to just, as you are lecturing, as you are teaching, just go and walk behind that student and stand and teach from there. They are going to stop talking. It's that simple. You don't need to say, Johnny, will you please stop talking? Just go behind them, stand behind them, and they're going to naturally be quiet. Interest boosting. You might have misbehaviors in your classroom because they're bored, because what you are doing is lame. It happens to the best of us. If you see that behaviors are happening, try to spice up your classroom. Do it on the spot. Try to change something. Get them involved. Attached to this is humor. Try to make it educational, managed, and entertaining. It's such a hard profession because for a lot of us, we need to do all of those things to keep our kiddos interested. Helping over hurdles. Sometimes misbehaviors happen because they are frustrated because they can't do what they need to do, or they can't do what you're asking them to do. So sometime a good amount of scaffolding, just helping them over those hurdles, is going to have them more engaged and have a more positive self-efficacy, if you will, that I can do this. So now I am more involved into the class. Program restructuring. If I know that after recess or later in the afternoon more behaviors happen, I'm going to make sure I put my core academic subjects in the morning. You will notice that most schools do that. They start with math and reading, and then they move on to other things. That's because that's when we have them the most. So if something's not working at a certain time, move it around. So the most important stuff is happening when you have the kids at their finest. Criticism and encouragement, it goes both ways. Some of us, by me saying a really positive, uplifting word to you, is motivation to get you going even harder and stronger. For other ones of us, if I am your biggest critic, that also gets you moving forward, stronger and harder. It depends on the person, on what works best. Each one of your kiddos will respond to you differently, and so you need to make sure that you are giving each person exactly what they need. And then defining limits. What is enough? What will you take? Know what your personal hot buttons are. For me personally, I never had issues with people not raising their hand. I don't want you to raise your hand. It slows down our conversation. So as a 5th grade teacher, no one ever raised their hand. That was okay with me. They were also allowed to stand up at their seats. What they weren't allowed to do was sharpen their pencil or blow their nose, because to me that was too distracting. No one is right. You just need to make sure that you know your limits and that the kids know your limits. What is going to be tolerated and what is not. Okay? So, in discussion, I want you on your paper. This is going to be completely private, so I want you to really have some honest reflection. Answer these questions. What technique will you find most comfortable upholding in your classroom? What do you think will be difficult? And what do you see to be essential and a must in your classroom? I want you to reflect on those things right now. So, moving forward, you guys, there's some things that I need for you to do. First, I want you to go online and print off the project worksheet. You guys have a project to do for me, and as a classroom management project, I want you to choose one thing that we've talked about today and figure out how to address it before you even have your own classroom. So you're going to write a paper for classroom management for me, and that project outline has more detailed directions. But you are going to come to class for me in 2 Wednesdays after Thanksgiving break. You are going to come to class at our next time, and you're going to have that project ready, and you are going to have a paper that you've submitted on Canvas, and you're also going to have a product that you have created to help with classroom management. I want you to go ahead and read, I believe it's chapter 12 on classroom management, and reflect. And then I also want you to go on YouTube and find a video that you think shows really strong classroom management. Post that video's link on Canvas, and then I want you to comment on one other person's video. Okay? I see why you chose that. I like how this teacher did that. Okay? You can see at the very top there it says quiz. When you come back to me on Wednesday, before we even start looking at the products you made for your project, we are going to do a quiz and make sure that we are comfortable quizzing and testing with these questions. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will see you guys in a week and a half.